I, Pujita Venkatesh. I, Pujita Venkatesh, will be the host for this event. Vish Vishwanath sir is going to be leading this information session. Vish is an alumni of the 1985 batch from CG Mechanical Engineering. He's currently the CEO of Anicode Management Consultants. He's been an angel investor for the past 12 years. He's a startup member, he's a startup mentor, and a board advisor for the last 15 years. He's a psychological counselor and a psychotherapist and a social worker. I'm going to drop in his LinkedIn in case you want to know more about Vishwanathan sir just in a few minutes in the chat box. The presentation will be provided, so you don't have to worry about the PowerPoint presentation. This event is not sponsored. This event also has non-CGNs at the interest of the speaker. If you have questions, please feel free to add them in the chat box. We have a Q&A session planned at the end of the event where Vish sir will be answering them. If you'd like to ask the few questions yourself, you can do so by unmuting yourself, but please feel free to do that at the end of the session when it's the Q&A. I kindly request you all to mute yourself. You may have your video turned on or not, depending on your personal choice. However, somewhere in the middle of the session, I request you all to turn on the video as we'll be taking a little screenshot to capture this event. Thank you all, and Vish sir, on to you.
Okay, thanks, Pujita. Thanks for the introduction. Thank you guys for joining on a Sunday morning US time and a Sunday evening India time. I just came back from another event for our alumni in Chennai. We had a startups and entrepreneurs networking meet. I just finished. We had about 60 plus people who came to the meet. So it's rolling from one alumni event to another alumni event for the day today. So happy to present to you on this important topic. I'm going to share my screen now to see if you guys can see it. Can you see it? Pujita, can you see the screen?
Yes, sir. Perfect.
Okay, super. So again, welcome to the program. Let me spend a few minutes starting off this presentation why we are doing it. First of all, it's a very important topic that everybody should be aware of and should learn about. We will go through what is the importance of this topic as we go through the slides. But before that, a little bit about CG Connect. So Pujita introduced SIGANA, the organization that is our alumni association in North America. CG Connect is a private initiative that I have done for the last few years. It's again a complement to all the other alumni groups that we have in our college. CG Connect specifically enables networking opportunity between alumni all over the world based on their interest level. It's a portal, online portal, and as part of the CG Connect platform, we allow our alumni to interact with each other and get connected to people that they would like to connect. And secondly, we also run several events out of this platform. One of them is the CEG C-Level Connect series. This is a monthly program where I invite some of the most successful alumni from our college who are all over the world, who are in C-level positions, to come for a 1-hour online video podcast where we talk about their journey from the time they left the college to where they are now, and possibly exchange and share their learnings, experiences that can be useful to other alumni and students. We also run a program called CG Field Insights, which is a program where again, we invite alumni from a specific field. So someone who has expertise in a particular industry, maybe manufacturing, maybe travel, maybe finance, maybe marketing, or maybe in electric vehicles or cryptocurrency, what have you. So we invite them and let them talk about that industry. And the objective again there is for the person to talk about the industry and others, such as students, to see what kind of employment opportunities exist in that industry, for researchers to find what research collaboration opportunities exist, and for startups to figure out if there is any startup opportunity to work with those industries. So that is CG Field Insights. And then on top of that, we conduct online webinars like this one. There are webinars done almost every other month on topics of interest. I'll go through a list of presentations that are done recently. So if you're interested in watching them, some of them are recorded, much like this program is recorded, and you can watch them. I plan to do webinars like this on various different topics at least once every quarter. So you're welcome to join them. And the fourth thing that CG Connect does is aligning physical networking meets like the one we did in campus today. We're bringing entrepreneurs, and these kind of meets happen not just in India. We also do such meets in overseas locations. I've done this CG Connect meets in about 4 countries and 13 different place cities in the last 3 years. So we try to bring in alumni who are local to the geography to come together to collaborate and network and enjoy each other's company. So that's about CG Connect. So on this topic of emotional wellness and mental health, it's a very important topic. The reason I'm doing this topic is because it is becoming more important and more apparent that the people who are seeking help or who are needing help for mental illnesses is only increasing. And it's very important people to be aware of what is available, what can be done about it. And as you can see shortly that that this is an area which I want to continue to canvas and campaign for, because this is something that the entire society needs right now. Okay, so let me. Okay, so first slide is basically a disclaimer. Since I'm doing this presentation for a US audience, and as you know, people in the United States, you have to be careful what you say and what you not say. So just disclaimer here, I'm a qualified, experienced, practicing professional psychological counselor and psychotherapist. I don't represent any medical institution or government. I'm just a private practicing psychological counselor. All the information I'm sharing here should not be construed as counseling. This is not counseling. This is basically information sharing. If indeed anyone wants to take any particular help, you're welcome to set up an appointment. I'll be happy to help you as a counselor, as a proper counseling session. The material I'm showing here is mostly from my own knowledge, from my own education, from my own experience, as well as information I have collected from other publicly available sources, such as documents, circulars, websites, etc., all that. And I'm doing this seminar and all other seminars I do on a pro bono basis. I do not charge for that. It is not supported, sponsored, or paid by anyone. This particular one is actually done in collaboration with Sigana. Sigana is hosting this event, but we're doing it as a pro bono service for the benefit of people who are in the call. A brief about my profile. I think Pujita gave a little bit of insight. I just want to put a few bullet points here. Again, the copy of this presentation will be made available to you. So you'll be able to see all this in greater detail and read that. While I'm going through the presentation, what I will do is to not actually talk about every single thing shown in the slide. I will try to highlight significant points that I want to make you aware of that is shown on the slide. So when I provide the copy of the presentation, you should be able to read the slide in great detail. But for now, I would request you to focus on just the key messages I'm delivering in each slide that is relevant to this particular presentation. So I'm a qualified and experienced professional psychological counselor and psychotherapist. I also have 35 years of experience in as a global C-level corporate executive in US, India, and many countries as a running public and private companies. As a board member, startup advisor, I'm also a Stanford Seed mentor. Stanford University has a program to groom entrepreneurs worldwide, and they recruit mentors from all over the world who they believe would be useful to get that mission done. So I'm proud to say I'm a Stanford Seed mentor. And currently, I run a consulting company, Anicode Management Consultants. I'm an angel investor with the Chennai Angels, Guindy Angels, and Native Lead Angels, and a Thai Charter member. I think I would like to consider myself a social worker because I spend 90% of my time and expertise in working with several NGOs, non-governmental organizations in India and the US. We do a lot of projects all the way from poverty alleviation to education to sustainability, etc. All that. So I work with several NGOs both in India as well as the US. In terms of qualification, I did a Bachelor of Engineering from College of Engineering, Guindy in 1985, followed up with a Master's from the State University of New York in USA, and then a postgraduate diploma from Symbiosis University in Counseling and Psychology. I'm an amateur marathon runner. I do organic farming and also like spirituality and classical Indian music. So that's about me. So let's go to emotional wellness and mental health. Mental health makes news regularly. As you know, anytime you open a newspaper or a magazine, you will probably see a lot of information about mental health. See that people are having mental illness and this happens, that happens. A lot of numbers get thrown around. So it's always in the news. But unfortunately, even though it's always in the news, people haven't done much about it to do what is required to be done about it. So a lot of people wander around thinking that they have a problem for whatever reason, stigma, fear, embarrassment, or not knowing where to go, what to do, just keep it to themselves. And that is not very helpful because these mental health issues have to be taken care of. Human beings are born to be healthy and as well as happy. And we take enough, at least we take some amount of effort to become healthy, but we don't take enough effort to be happy. And it is happiness is something that is a choice. And mental health issues can be addressed. And if you can address them at the right time, with the right way, then you can do a much more fulfilling life and live up to your full potential. So first key message from this presentation is that if someone thinks that they have a mental health issue, it's not something to be ashamed about. It's something to be done something about. If you are willing to take action and do the right things, you can produce a much better output for the world and you can be happy yourself. Okay. So what is mental health? So before we start talking about mental health, we need to know what exactly mental health is. So the World Health Organization has actually had a very clear definition for that. Mental health is a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, everyday life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. It's a very broad-based definition saying that you're a normal person, you handle normal things that happen in life, and you do things to produce stuff and make a difference in the world. So what a normal person with a good mental health does. So what does it mean? It affects how you feel, how you act, how you handle stress, how you relate to others, and how you make choices. So all these things are important. And a person with good mental health can do all these things appropriately for the greatest benefit of themselves as well as for the communities. Second key message is mental well-being is just as important or even more important, in my opinion, as physical well-being. And you need to maintain both physical well-being and mental well-being in order to stay fit and healthy. A lot of us do a lot of things to do dieting, we pop pills, we do exercise, we do yoga, etc. All that, but we don't really take care of our mental health. So mental well-being is equally important. There are ways and means you can do that to keep yourself fit mentally as well. Regular things you can do that to keep fit, and also things you have to do when regular things are not working as well. So the basic framework of counseling psychology, when you look at the counseling psychology, is a broad field. I'm just of course giving you a very satellite view of counseling psychology. Counseling psychology is very detailed business and profession, but at a very high level, it's an interaction between a situation when something happens, incident, situation, conversation, some discussion happens, and that gives rise to certain thoughts in the individual person's mind. You think about it, you hear about it, to interpret it. So the situation is interpreted. In other words, the same situation that happens gets interpreted differently by different people depending upon their mental state. And that particular thought that is being generated in the mind results in a certain emotion, a feeling occurs as a result of the thought, which results in a behavior. I want to give a very simple example. Let's say you're driving on the road, you're stopped in a stoplight. Let's say someone comes and cuts in front of you and you're about to go to the red light, right? It's very irritating for most people. So in this example, a person cut you in the traffic light. So there are there's at least three kinds of thoughts that would go through. Some people might get very angry because the person thinks that how dare this person can cut in front of me? He's being so rude and disrespectful. That's one thought process. Another one might say, this guy is an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing. I'm going to ignore him because there's no point thinking about him, and just ignore him and just stay calm. And the third person might say, perhaps this person has an emergency or a problem. That's why he's trying to rush, and feel sympathetic for him. So the exact same incident, someone cutting the line in front of you, could potentially evoke at least three different thought processes. So the same situation gives rise to different kinds of thought and different kinds of people. The person who thinks that the person is rude gets angry. That's an emotion that follows the thought of being that person is rude, and ends up behaving, which is cussing him, shouting at him, showing fingers at him, etc. Whereas the person who said, this guy is an idiot, I want to ignore him, just stays calm, just lets the situation go and doesn't do anything about it. And the third person perhaps thinks, maybe you should get out and ask this person, should I help him because he might be needing some help. So the same situation gives rise to different thoughts, and each thought gives rise to its own corresponding emotion, in which case one of them is anger, the other one is indifference, the third one is empathy, and the corresponding behavior. In the first one you shout, second one you ignore, the third one you try and go and help them. So this is what I say, the basic framework that every human being in every single incident that happens has figured out a way to interpret. So it comes down to not the actual incident causing any problem. It is the story that each individual tells himself or herself about that situation that results in a certain thought that carries to an emotion and behavior. So this is a basic understanding that you have to have when you're talking about psychology and what counselors, psychiatrists, and psychotherapists and psychological counselors do. This is important to understand because everything is connected. Situation, thoughts, emotions, behavior. We go through millions of different situations in our lifetime. We have millions of thought processes every day, and each one rises to an emotion. So if you're able to understand this and comprehend it in a way and make use of it effectively, you could be in very sound mental health no matter what the situation is, which is a key message. Okay. So what are mental health disorders in this case? So similar to that, thoughts, feelings, emotions, and behavior, people who have mental disorder have difficulty in the ability to think, feel, and behave. The ability to think, feel, and behave normally is affected, which is why they have mental disorder. Because of the disorder, it affects the way they build relationship and how they work. So the same thoughts, feelings, and behavior, if they are not working very well, then it results in the person not being able to be very normal and very able to operate, and his or her productivity, his or her effectiveness goes down. The good thing is that this is fully reversible. This is not a irreversible, it's a very reversible problem. So with the right kind of approach, with the right kind of resource, you will be able to get out of this particular mental situation you might have to be able to become productive. So I want to keep emphasizing this key message that there is nothing to be ashamed of if you have any mental situation, mental illness, or mental health issue. It's nothing to be embarrassed about, nothing to be angry about, nothing to be depressed about. Every single person's mental health condition can, I repeat, can be reversed. So you have all the rights, and every human being has all the rights and abilities to be happy at every point in time. But often we find people are not always happy, and that's because of all these things we're going to talk about. But with the right kind of approach, help, and cooperation, you could become 100% happy. That much I can tell you. Okay. So what are the causes of mental health disorders? So there's no single cause. There could be combination of factors. In most cases, it's a stressful life situation. Either you lost your job, or you lost your partner, or you lost some money, or any life situation, you lost someone who you like, or maybe there was a natural disaster. Maybe so a lot of different stressful life events can cause people to lose their sanity and become a mental disorder. Could be biological. There are certain research that shows that certain genetic makeups can be more predisposed to mental health disorder. So if there are certain kinds of mental disorders in the family, then there's a chance that the person who inherits those genes can have that. There could be individual psychological factors. Each person's personality is developed over time from the time you're born based on your circumstances, your upbringing, your culture, etc. All that. So individual psychological factors could be a reason for any mental disorder. And finally, any adverse childhood life events, abuse, neglect, etc. A lot of people in the childhood go through various experiences. Not every single experience that everyone has in childhood is great or perfect, but most people don't allow them to impact them in the future life. Unfortunately, for some, those things make an impact, and those impacts can cause the situation difficulties later in life. Even those things, with the right kind of approach, can be changed for people to get back to being happy. So what are the symptoms of the mental health disorders? In the case of physical symptoms, it could be aches and pains in part of the body which is not explained physiologically. Could be lack of sleep, oversleeping, not having enough appetite or too much appetite, weakness in the body. If you look at the cognitive thinking aspect, not able to concentrate, not able to remember, and not able to judge things right and wrong, or I end up having false beliefs about myself or the rest of the world, which I'm not able to shake off. Could be psychological, where you feel down, sad, depressed, excess fear, loss of interest, many different things. Those could be psychological symptoms. Or behavioral symptoms. You're very aggressive, you get angry too soon, you have excess speech, you feel isolated, you think of self-harm, etc. All that. Or in extreme cases, you start imagining things that don't exist. So imagining voices, people, things, etc. There are people who go through those situations also, but if you look at the spectrum of people who are having challenges with mental health, could be any of this. They could have physical symptoms or a combination of symptoms, and these symptoms are things that can help a mental health professional to diagnose your condition and be able to help it. So if you're encountering any of these things, don't just brush it aside saying it will go away. And don't try to attribute what it might be causing, because the medical professionals and the mental health care professionals are educated and trained specifically to help you for these things. So ignoring these things isn't going to help you or solve the problem. Okay. And if you look at how prevalent this problem is, you have to see that depression and anxiety alone, just those two conditions alone, cost $1 trillion each year in lost productivity. So it's a huge deal. The world is losing $1 trillion in productivity because people are not taking care of their basic mental health issues like anxiety and depression. So it is costing money. Something has to be done, both at the global level. If you look at your own communities, it says that 20% of people experiencing hopelessness also have a serious mental illness, and almost 15% of all hospital emergency visits are for a mental health issue. So it's not something that happens only to some people, it happens quite a lot. And even at the family level, if you see, there are at least 70 million people globally who are currently, as we speak, taking care of a person in their own family or in their own network who have an emotional and mental health issue. And more than 15 to 20% of children who live with a parent with a mental health condition or going through this case as well. So you can see the numbers are big. In a population of 7 billion people, you're talking about a good number of people having this challenge. So we are not alone. If you feel that you have a challenge, if you feel like someone you know has a challenge, they are not alone. This is a widespread problem. Unfortunately, the amount of attention given to solve it is not there. It's increasing, which is a good news, but it has to increase substantially more for the world to be a more safe place. And if you look at incidents that are happening all over the world, particularly in the United States, you see a lot of aggressive actions taken by people. In every single case, whether it is either a random shooting or a mass shooting or a mass, etc., they always say that the person had a mental illness. And it's not like they didn't discover it now. Person probably had been diagnosed, but now nothing has been done about it. And if you don't do anything about it, the person ends up doing a behavior which is very harmful. So the thinking that we should address these things when they are found is becoming more, but it's not becoming more fast enough. And hence, these kinds of webinars are for you to educate and make you aware that these things need to be taken care of, whether it's involved yourself or your loved one or you someone you know. I think all of us should take it upon ourselves to make sure that we address these issues at the right time. So further data, if you see, 479 million people, adults age 18 or older, reported experiencing some mental health condition at some point in the previous 12 months. So it's a big number, and almost 1 in 5 adults, 20% of them have a mental health condition every year, and about 4% of the population has a serious mental illness. So it's something that is known, measured. So it's a problem that needs to be addressed at all levels. Only 30% of the adults who have a mental health condition that is detrimental actually seek treatment. And those 50% of all those with a serious condition only get treatment. So which means half the people who have a serious mental illness are not getting treated, are not seeking treatment, right? Because of various reasons: no insurance coverage, limited access to healthcare providers. It's a true story that the number of mental health professionals available anywhere in the world is far less than what we need. We have far more other professions, but we don't have enough mental health professionals in the world. And in countries like India, it's even worse. Our ratio of mental health professional to the population is very small. So in places where we need to have millions of mental health professionals, we have hundreds. That's how big the problem of availability of mental health providers. So a lot of universities, the government are trying to make sure there are more people trained and certified and available in the society to provide that. Schools, colleges, offices, government, NGOs, all of them are looking at hiring more and more of mental health professionals, because this problem is becoming bigger, not smaller over time. In the case of youth, 1 in 5 youth struggle with a mental health illness. This is the future of our society. 20% of the society that is going to be future society is having mental health illness. And 75 to 80% of children and youth in need of mental health do not receive them because their parents think it's not something they should tell others about, or they want to hide it, or they think it's not important, or it will go away on its own. All of it results in that not being treated, which results in bigger problems later on in life. So looking at all this data from various international studies, I said, why not we look at our own data? So I launched a survey about a couple of months ago, which many of you participated. Thank you very much. It was an anonymous survey, so I don't know which one of you actually participated, but I do know many of you did participate. And so I did say, see, what is the scope of this problem amongst our own cohorts, people who are born in India, living overseas, living in India, multiple age groups, etc. So you can see, is the numbers that showing at the global level across all demographics apply to us or not? You'll be surprised with the results I'm going to show you right now. So the anonymous survey done last month on mental health, I had participants, I had more than 300 participants who joined the survey. The participants range from age group of 18 to 75 years. Oldest person in the respondee was 75 years old, youngest was 18 years old, men and women, and participants from 8 countries, US, UK, Dubai, etc. And each one of them, in the questionnaire, I asked them about their professional educational background. I didn't get any personal information about them. I don't know the name, I don't know what they do, where they are, what the contact details, only know that they are of a certain age, certain education, professional background, and also know what kind of responses they give in the survey itself. So gender wise, almost 2/3 of my respondents were male, about a third female, and a few preferred not say. So a good mix, basically. The next question is, during the past year, do you have any emotional problems? Half the people who responded said they had some sort of emotional problem the last year. So it goes to show that 50% of all respondents in a sample of about 300 people had said that they had some problem sometime in the last year, right? 40% said they didn't anything, and 10% weren't sure that a problem. So really, 50 to 60% seem to have had some kind of problem in the last 1 year. And in the past 2 weeks, question was that, did your mental health affect relationship? 35%, 1/3 said somewhat or very often it affected the relationship with their spouse, relationship with their children, with their colleagues, with their bosses, with their employees, etc. So as you see, this data after data, this is cohort of people from our own country living in India, overseas, various professions. This is a problem that is prevalent for a lot of people. So anyone who thinks that this is very unique to themselves, it is not unique to you. And I asked them, how often do you feel positive about life? 20% said never or once in a while. I mean, 20% people to see that once in a while they feel positive. They are basically feeling negative most of the time. And I find this number ought to be more like 1%. It's exactly 20% right now. So there is obviously room for people to be able to take help for them not to feel so negative about life, right? But this is a reality. Next question is a very telling question. When did you last get a mental health examination? All of us do physical health examination, at least some of us do. A staggering 77% have never got any mental health examination. They didn't even care to know, am I actually mentally happy, unhappy? Am I healthy, unhealthy? No. This has to change. Much like we go and take care of physical health by looking at physical examination, mental health examination is available. And psychologists and psychiatrists and counselors can do it for you. It's better to see and prevent the problem and be proactive about it than be reactive after you hit the problem. So I would say one message I want to leave with you is that if you haven't already done it, please seek help from your general practitioner to recommend them to either a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a counselor or a therapist. All of them can do a basic mental health exam for you to tell if you have anything that you need to work on. Okay. Then I asked the question, please select all the mental health issues that you experienced now or before. 32% of all the respondents said that they had anxiety. At least that's what they diagnosed themselves as anxiety, or they're feeling anxious most of the time. 1/4 had depression. Now look at it. In a cohort of 300 people, we have almost 50% of the people either had anxiety or depression that they experienced, and a whole bunch of other issues as well, right? So if you or someone you know feels that they are anxious, or they're feeling anxiety all the time, or they feel depressed or down, they are not alone. They are part of a bigger cohort of people who are in the same situation. And I want to tell you from personal experience, I had gone through my own mental health challenges 10, 12 years ago. And I'm very proud and very happy to say that by taking the necessary approach, having necessary therapy and treatment, I was able to get out of it completely 100% to be able to perform and be able to do this presentation to you guys. So if at all anything you want to believe, I'm a telling example of someone who had a challenge, was able to get through the right approach. Okay. Next question. Have you seen a therapist in the recent past? 81% never. again, if there is something that you are concerned about, there is no need to not procrastinate, not do anything about. Please go and see someone, some therapist you know, some therapist you trust, or get recommendation from someone. Myself or any of the psychologists, psychotherapists, and therapists in the world would be very happy to help you. Please reach out. At least get some assessment done to see if you need to do anything more, if not anything else. Next question: how many hours of sleep do you get in a day? 4 to 6 hours. About more than a third of the people who survey said they only get 4 to 6 hours of sleep. That's a big problem. Sleep is a very essential physiological function that everybody has to have, and anything less than 7 hours is not good. So about 37% of people said they sleep less than 7 hours, sometimes even less than 4 to 5 hours. This is something you need to take into account. We all need to make sure that we get adequate, good quality sleep regularly to make sure that we are happy. Next question: do you feel content with your relationship and family? Sometimes 41%, no 6%. Not bad, given that it's a big cohort, not bad. Still, I would expect yes to be more like 80%, not 53%, right? But there are a lot of things that causes discontent in the family because of relationship, because of mental health condition. The next question: are you going through a tough emotional situation now? 41%, almost half, saying they're going through a tough emotional situation during the time the survey was done. So the bottom line in all these numbers I'm showing is to tell you that if you look at any different way, this seems to be a growing problem, widely prevalent. These 300 people are very different people from different demographics, different type of age group, different kind of genders, different kind of locations, but all seem to have some commonalities in terms of what they're going through, right? So a mentally healthy person can think clearly, which means they can think clearly, they can feel correct, and they can do the right actions. They can enjoy good relationship with others. They can cope with the normal day-to-day stresses of life and solve them. And they can work productively to make contributions to themselves and to the community. So we would want every single human being to be in this category. But if they're not, we need to get them into this category. We're doing what we need to do about that. The key facts about mental health disorders, right? People say it doesn't happen to me. It can affect anyone. Men, women, rich, poor, educated, uneducated, Western, Eastern, Northern, Southern, doesn't matter. It can affect anyone. It's very common, as you saw in the data. 1 in 5 adults has a mental health problem. These people who have this healthy mental health issues do not look different from others. Don't expect them to look different. They are normal people around you. Chances are people who are around you, who are working with regularly, some of them might be having, you don't know about that, right? They can range from very common conditions to very severe conditions. And let's be honest, and please, it's not just stress. Stress is an issue, but let's not confuse a mental health disorder with a stress. Stress is one element or one indication or one type of mental health condition, but there are many other conditions which don't fall under the category of stress. It could be brief or long term. There are people who go through short terms of mental health condition and get over it, and some who have lifelong conditions also. It affects clearly quality of life. It affects your work, affects your relationship, etc. Not only affects you, it affects people around you and puts a stress on the entire family, the society, etc. And most important, there are effective forms of treatment available to be used which can help get out of this condition. That's the most important. Next slide talks about misconception about mental illness. A lot of misconceptions, myths, stories that put it around. So mental health people are dangerous. This is so untrue. There are many people who have mental health illness. You don't even know about them. They are very normally acting people. So they are not dangerous. It is definitely, for crying out loud, not a mindset problem. It is not a mindset problem. It's actually a real problem. So let's not people to change your mindset, have better attitude. It doesn't work that way. Mental health only concerns sick people. Not true. Very physically healthy, attractive people could have very serious mental illness. So let's not make decisions based on how they look, how great they are, how intelligent they are. Mental health can affect anybody. And it's not going to be cured by food and fitness. Thanks to WhatsApp University giving lots of unsolicited, useless advice, it doesn't help. I have nothing against WhatsApp or WhatsApp University giving advice. A lot of them are well intended, but none of them are specific or actionable. And so many of them are actually misleading or even plain wrong. So what I would say is that all these different messages in WhatsApp, in Facebook, you get about them are all what I call pop psychology. They're not real psychology. Some of them may be useful. Some of them are basically at best not going to help you, and some of them could be dangerous and make it worse. So please don't go by, much like you don't go to Google and get treated for your physical condition, you go to a doctor. Mental condition, don't go by Google or by WhatsApp. Go to a real professional to take care of that, right? Many other misconceptions. So please read them and realize it to see what all different things. If you have any of those misconceptions of mental health, please make sure that you get out of that and tell people. Medications for mental health are dangerous. I don't know who found that. There are medications for everything. Medications for physical conditions are even more dangerous, actually. We still take them. Somehow we feel that medications, mental conditions are dangerous. Yes, every medicine you take has its side effects. But you look at the what is the value of taking that versus not taking it, and see if it is valuable to solve the problem, you take it. So mental illness medications are not any different than any other medication. And by the way, medication is not the solution or the only solution for mental challenges, right? In fact, most psychiatrists will say that they can only treat the condition to the point of making the person little bit less affected. And then later on, the only permanent solution for mental health challenges is through counseling or therapy. Okay, so it's not about someone going to the doctor, getting a prescription, popping a few pills, and we all have become happy. It doesn't work that way, right? It's a problem that you have to attack with both medical medication as well as with counseling and psychotherapy. So what are the basic simple tips to stay happy? All of us know we have to be active, get out, go to the sunshine, get fresh air, very simple things. Enjoy walks with your family and friends. Work. Trying to do best in work isn't going to help unless you take a little break once in a while. Get at least 7 hours of sleep, preferably 8 hours of sleep every day. Talk about your feelings with someone you trust. Do not keep it to yourself. Most of my clients who come to me for counseling, they give me a very big story about their life, and I ask them the question, have you ever told the story? The answer is almost always never to anyone. What I would say that when things are in an addressable stage, talk to people who you know very well and talk about your feeling, because good things are, they may give you a perspective which is different from your perspective you have, which might be what is required to take care of it right then and there. So, and if you're not able to get thing, please look for professional help if you need it. There are lovely mental health professionals available all over the world. You can reach out to me or anyone else you know very well. Please look for help if you need it. Of course, eat healthy, always good idea. And what are the different kind of mental health support professionals you can seek at? Psychologists, counselors, therapists, psychiatrists, and clinical social workers. Each one of these people have a certain domain of expertise. For example, except psychiatrists, none of these people can prescribe medication. All of them can do counseling, and only a counselor and a therapist can do therapy. So each one of them have their own specialty area. So when you're going seeking out for help, you may not know which one to first go to. My advice would be that go to one of them, at least any of them. Each one of us in the profession knows what we can and cannot do. And this profession is such that the ethics is very important. So we will make sure that you go to the right person. If you have a condition that needs a medical treatment immediately by a psychiatrist, we will refer you to them. If your condition doesn't need medication and can be treated with counseling, counselors and therapists can handle it. Okay, so please make sure you approach one of these people to make sure you get any help for yourself or someone you like. Now, when we talk about stress, right? Stress is not necessarily a bad thing. Stress could be a good thing. So you have levels of stress, minimum stress to maximum stress. As stress is too low, then you comes boredom. You need something to make you keep challenged. So stress at a very low end is not a good thing. Stress has to improve. There is a comfortable middle layer where stress drives you, motivates you, wants you to do things. But as it keeps increasing, it gets to a point, it becomes detrimental and ends up being a crisis. So don't say, I'm stressed, stress is bad. Stress is not good or bad. Stress is okay for a certain amount of time, but then beyond that, could be a problem. A key point I want to make in this slide is that a lot of things in life we think is more important. Mental health is more important than someone else's perception of you. You cannot make someone think different about you than what they're thinking. You have no control over somebody else's mind. So worrying about someone's perception is absolutely useless, right? Taking care of your mental health is more important than worrying about someone's perception of you. It's definitely important to-do list. All of us get up, do a to-do list every day and diligently follow it. Your mental health is more important than that. More important than a job title, more important than the number of Instagram followers you have, more important than the weight or height you have, your appearance. All these things which you think important are not nearly as important as you taking care of your mental health. So when do you need to seek counseling? I would say that if you're in these kind of conditions, you're easily overwhelmed, you're consumed by anxious thoughts, negative thoughts, or you feel hopeless, or if you have relationship troubles, not eating well, feels like nothing is working for you, or you have gone through any experience of death, trauma, or any abuse, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, or any other abuse, or you feel like you need a mental tune-up, all these things would be good time for you to seek help with a counselor. Okay. I agree that discussing mental health issues with providers can be tough because this is something we are not used to doing. So going and talking to the third person, no matter how much expertise they have, would be tough. But we have to get beyond that. Personal stigma, lack of mental health knowledge, we can get through all these things. All these things are issues, but we need to get beyond all these issues for us to reach what we want to reach, which is a sound mental health. So that's where I talked about all the basic general mental health conditions. So I'm going to now quickly go on to the two specific application areas. But before I go there, I want to stop here for at least a minute to see if anybody has any questions before I go on to the application areas. Please go ahead with your questions either through chat box or you can ask the question yourself. I'll just give a minute of questions here.
Hey, Vish, this is Swami. A quick question on what prevents people most from going and seeking counseling as of, did you do a survey on that?
When I ask people when they come to counseling, I ask them what took you so long. Usually the first thing is that I don't know who to go to. I'm not sure who to go to. Which kind of person I should go to is one of the main things I hear from people. Second thing is that I don't know if I can explain my problem. The person can actually understand the problem. So I don't know if that is worth my time to go and see them. The second thing. And the third thing is more financial. I don't have money to pay a counselor. I don't have money to go and see a psychiatrist, or my insurance doesn't cover that. That's a third issue. The first two issues are solvable by ourselves. We can definitely seek. There are a lot of resources available now to go and find people who can go to for help. But second thing is that yes, counselors, therapists, and psychiatrists can understand you. We are not going to read your mind. We are not mind readers. We are not magicians. We are trained to ask the right questions the right way at the right time and interpret your responses to understand what is actually going through your mind. And we are not actually reading minds, but looking at thought patterns, feeling patterns, your background, to make a reasonable estimation of what you might be facing, and we address it. So please feel assured that a well qualified, experienced mental health professional will be able to understand and will be able to help you work through the problem.
Yeah, I think the most of the time my experience is that people don't realize that they have to see somebody, right? So
yeah,
unless you realize there is something going on, then you're not going to go seek help.
Yeah.
A lot of times when somebody is depressed or under severe stress, they don't even realize that they need help.
Exactly. So that's why I said the symptoms to watch out for. When I go to the next couple of application areas, I'll tell you what symptoms to watch out for, either in yourself or someone you are working with or living with, to see if you see symptoms, then you should probably think of taking action. So not sleeping, common things that you should watch out: not sleeping enough. Very good indication there is some problem. Unless there is a physiological problem with that, most often it is psychological problem. Second thing is that not feeling initiative, don't feel like doing anything, or avoiding people. Right? These are all very good indications that you're heading into an area which needs help. Right? The fourth one I would say is that if you feel like constantly you are thinking about negative thoughts, things not going well, thinking badly about people, or feeling that what is going to happen to me, living in the past or in the future, not in the present, these are all very telltale indications that there is a problem. Right? So yeah, I can give you a checklist of basic things, but the mental health examination, what I told you about, that a physical examination is a place for a professional to ask you those questions, to give you some idea that, hey, if you're going through these things, answering the questions this certain way, then I think you need help at this point in time. So that's what I would say. In the case of doubt, don't second guess. Seek the help of someone who can actually tell you if you really need to do something, or you can be okay as it is.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before I go to the next part of the presentation?
Hey, Vish, can you hear me?
Yes.
I've been in situations where I see someone struggling with it. I might be wrong in this diagnosing they have some problem, but how do you, is there a way to do it, like, get them to the right help? Because it's very hard to tell someone, right? Like,
Absolutely. Good question. I think what the way you should do that is that if you're not the expert, if you don't have the expertise to do that, you obviously cannot judge them. All you can tell them is that, you can tell you can tell them I've been to presentations where people tell me how to look at these things and when to seek help. You can give them idea saying that I think if these kinds of things are going on, then maybe you should consider taking help. It's not necessary that you may have a problem or may or may not have a problem, but maybe it's a good thing to take help. I think the society has moved forward sufficiently enough now that people are willing to consider. If you look back at 30, 40 years, it would be a no-go. And I'll give you an example. In my professional counseling life today, I've seen many clients in the last few years, right? Almost 85% of all my clients are under 35 years old. Which tells me two things. One, people who are the generation 35 and younger are more aware, more willing to take help. Or maybe people above 35 are less stressed and not very unhappy. I don't know which is true, but I don't think the later one is very true. People at over 35 are also stressed, also the conditions. They just didn't know how to go and where to go take help. So the encouraging pattern is that people who are younger and new generations are more willing, aware, and wanting to take help. So if you're talking about a person who is from that generation, I think you should tell them, hey, look, you seem like you have some sort of a challenge or not feeling great. So why don't you go and check with someone who can help you? If it's an older person you're talking about, then you have to be very careful because you don't want to come across as judging them. You can tell them that, look, I went to a seminar done by my colleague and they told me that, it'd be a good idea for me to check up with people to say how they feel. And if they don't feel, to ask them to go to someone in a very subtle, gentle, non-judgmental way. You can kind of ask them to go and seek help. But at no point we will do counseling unless the person who wants counseling is fully available and fully doing it themselves. It has to be a completely voluntary involvement. We cannot counsel people who don't want to be counseled. That doesn't work. Despite the fact that you might feel that somebody else, maybe let's say your child needs counseling, your parent needs counseling, you feel strongly about it. If the child or parent is not going to be getting involved in counseling, a counselor simply cannot help. So the person who needs help has to be involved, and it's not very normal or not easy for a person to be fully involved in the beginning, fully understandable. As practicing trained professionals, we know how to break the ice on sensitive topics to get people to tell us, and slowly we can get to know more from them. So we don't expect people to come and open up and tell everything. That never happens. It is through a process of questions and discussions and talking is when you find out. So we can help even people are reluctant to tell everything about themselves.
Yeah, a child and a parent might be easier compared to a spouse, right? So if you're going to try and do this with a spouse, I mean, it's almost impossible, right?
It's very risky. It's very risky.
Yeah, it's very risky. Yep.
It is very risky. I agree with you on that. It's very risky. In fact, when I end up counseling, do a lot of relationship counseling. It's one of the more common topics I see. I don't do joint counseling. Unlike some other counselors and psychiatrists, I never do joint counseling. To me, if a man and a woman or a boy and a girl or whatever combination of partners are coming to me with a problem, then to me they are two individual independent clients. Because the fact they have an issue doesn't mean I can counsel them jointly. Some counselors do joint counseling. I don't, because to me each one of them has their own point of view on what the problem is, and both of them could be wrong actually. In most cases, both of them are wrong actually. In few cases, one of them is right, one of them is wrong. But as a counselor, as a professional mental health person, I don't judge right, wrong, good, bad. That is not my job. I treat it how to help you. Unlike a legal system or a criminal justice system where it's right, wrong, good, bad, in psychology, there's no good, bad, right, wrong. If I have to counsel a convict prisoner, I will take his word for it. I will completely give him full regard for what he is thinking. I'm not going to judge him as being bad or good because he's in jail, right? So in case of couples also, when they come to us, we don't want to make it sound like one has a problem, one doesn't have a problem. We'll treat them both as individual clients and we try to see what is it that we can do with them to make them better people than what they are, and hence break the relationship problem, right? But if it is an issue of you trying to encourage your spouse to come, I think it's probably better for someone else to tell that than you telling them. Particularly in a spousal relationship, It's very, very dangerous for one person to say, I think you need help. That will be a little bit dangerous. I would have someone else tell them it in a more subtle way.
Yeah,
But if
someone
you are
else that they trust. Yeah.
that they trust, exactly, someone they trust, usually the friend or sister or someone like that. But if you're not able to find someone you really think that the person, I think, no, I still think it's worth taking that risk of at least making the person aware that they may need help, not necessarily they do need help, and let them make the judgment themselves to do that. And most reasonably sane people will, at some point in time, after hearing from 2 or 3 people in the close circles, will say, wait a minute, maybe I should go see something, right? So that's something that I would recommend to do in case of spousal relationship issues. Okay, so let's go on to the next part of the presentation on midlife psychology. So what is midlife psychology? Let's see that. So I want to start with the quote from Mark Twain. Age is an issue of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. It's a very classic quote, I think, very appropriate for the generation we are in. So a lot of it is what goes through in your mind, right? Not that what happens around you. So clearly, this is a good way to start the topic. Now, the reason I want to show this slide is that I don't want to bore you with a lot of technical details. Erik Erikson is a very famous psychologist who came up with this thing called epigenetic principle. Epigenetic principle in very, very high level says that every human being, right from childbirth all the way to their end of life, go through 8 stages of development, psychosocial development, not physical development, psychosocial development. And each stage, they have to counter this trade-off between this versus that, trust versus mistrust, autonomy versus shame, etc. At the time when they are in the middle adult age, somewhere between 25 to 50, the challenge is between generativity versus stagnation. Generativity is people who feel that I had to go and get things done, excited, has initiative, motivation, want to win the world, etc. Versus those who feel the world has gone past them and they feel stagnated. It's a purely a mental concept that they made for themselves. There is no way they can prove or disprove that, right? So Erikson has said, if you are going to look at people, look at what stage of life they are in and say what challenges they have. And every single human being in their life goes through these challenges. And those who go through this successfully end up living very happy, fulfilling lives, right? At any stage, if the particular trade-off is not met, you end up that it has a negative impact on the rest of your lives. So this is something that has been established. It's a very good theory, proven through research and data, etc. also. So we use this as the first stage to say what is the issue that the person is having and what issue that they had in the past. That is why your history is very important in psychology to decide what is going on with you. History is not unimportant. Much like medical science, psychology also relies on history of your background development, etc. all that. There are some psychologists who think history is irrelevant. I disagree, because they may have a different point of view. History has a lot of relevance, but history is not the only relevant thing. A lot of other things you have to see as well. And all of you know what Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You probably studied in your high school or college or wherever. People who are in the middle adult age, most of them probably have taken care of the physiological and safety needs. They are probably looking for esteem needs or self-actualization needs. So if these needs are not met, is where you have all these people in their midlife who are going through. I wouldn't necessarily say that they are having a crisis. Some of them do have a crisis, but a lot of them feel this place where they feel that they are stuck, or they don't know where to go, or wonder if they're going the right direction, right? That's basically coming in the top 2 needs, the esteem needs and the self-actualization needs. And that is where, when we get people who come and tell us, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what I should do, this is the thoughts going through your mind, tell me what I should do. We don't go and tell them this is what you should and should not do. That is not our job. We tell them what is going through the mind, what makes them think the way they think, and try to reframe their thoughts in a more adaptable, constructive way for them to figure out their own solution, what they should do. Because far be it for a counselor therapist to tell you what you should do. Right? It's your life, you have to live it the way you want. All we can do is to provide you a reference point and objectivity to reframe your thoughts so that you can come up with a solution yourself, which you believe would be a good place for you. Now, the therapist's participation here is only to the extent of making sure that they give you the right reference, right objective, and also the right tools to work with. They're not going to be able to make a decision for you. But I have a lot of clients who come to me saying that I have this problem, should I do A or B? I said, I can't answer the question. That's not my job. I'll tell you what can happen with A, what can happen with B, and why you think A is better or B is better. Please think about it. Similarly, people come and say, I'm feeling kind of down. Please help me. that's not enough information for me to do anything about. I need to ask about some details around it to say what exactly you're down about, when you're down, why you're down, who are you down with, etc. All that. So we don't answer specific pointed questions, yes, no questions, good, bad questions. We'll help you get to the right answers to the question you're looking for yourself. So men versus women, if you look at it, how the stages stack up, usually this mid psychology, midlife crisis, midlife psychology, usually it's somewhere between 40 to 50, 35 to 50, 55 years of age. There's no one particular number. Most common male reasons for a midlife crisis. Again, this is not all the reasons. Most common is fear of not fulfilling dreams. This is very, very common. People who are in the 40s said, I don't know if my worth was life living so far. I don't know if I did anything meaningful. I feel like my life has gone past me. I have less time in my rest of life. I feel stuck. I don't know what to do about it. Should I even bother to do anything about it? That's one of the very common things. Fear of aging. Now, all of us age, physiologically, psychologically, we age, and fear of aging is one thing people get very worried about, which causes guys saying that maybe I'm just lost too much time. I had to do something to catch up, or I'm worried about I'll die sometime. I don't want to face that. Fear of loss of attraction. Now, I don't look good. I don't have a nice head of black hair, etc. Fear of illnesses, fear of death. This is what common things we see when men come at this age group asking about they're having challenges. Because of women, not very different. There are certain physiological differences between men and women that all of us have to admit and accept. But the most common things I see from female reasons for midlife crisis is that they had children, they were caretakers, taking children. The children now became free, went out of the house, and they feel that loss, and that causes them confusion, identity, saying, who am I? Why am I there for? Right? Or lifestyle changes that enable more opportunities. They don't know how to leverage those opportunities, the lifestyle change. Menopause, obviously something that all women go through, which is a time when you have a lot of emotional stresses and emotional things going on. That's a very typical case. Biological and physiological changes and psychological changes. You are at some point in time have to have your skin look different than what it was before. You are going to have your physiology different than before. So people get very wound up about that. And also questioning have I actually done right thing? A lot of mid-age women come to me saying, I don't know if I was a good parent. I don't know if I was a good spouse. I don't know if I was a good daughter. I don't know if I was a good citizen. Now, these are all things they ask questions of themselves, and instead of trying to be objective, which they can, they end up making wrong conclusions, and that is the cause of the problem. So what we do is we analyze with them, work with them, talk to them, and find out that there is no such thing as good and bad, or more or less, or enough or not enough. We give them perspective saying that you have to be happy and proud of things that you have done that many people could not do. And also emphasize the fact that at every stage in life, you are only going to do certain things. When you move on to the next stage, you have different things to worry about and not necessarily get stuck in things you're thinking about earlier. Again, not terribly new or terribly rocket science, but somebody who is in that state is not able to look at a big picture. And that is where we come in to help to show the big picture. And I can tell you people, please trust me. I got many people who have come in this age group to me, and all of them have gone back and saying they feel very relieved. They feel that they are not seen the end of it so far. They said that, okay, we'll try our best, and many of them have been successful. And I'll tell you, as a counselor and a psychotherapist, the most happiness I get is when someone comes to me after several sessions and says, thank you, you made a difference in my life. I feel much better. That is the biggest reward that I can get, more than the money or claim or probably, because we can make a direct change in someone's mental makeup for them to live happy and successful. Right? So next slide. What are the symptoms? Somebody asked, how can you see? Jealousy and envy increases. You look at people around you who are, in your mind, far more successful, far more famous, far more accomplished, etc. All that. If you see that this is happening more, you start feeling this more and more. Definitely, you're entering into midlife. Excessive indecisiveness and procrastination. Another key telltale sign that you are in this situation. Feeling apathetic, numb or down, no interest, couldn't care, not sure what's going on. Another thing. Pervasive feelings of unfulfillment and emptiness. I didn't do what I could have done. I'm not successful as I should be. I should have earned more. I should have got a better job. I should have a better company, better society, etc. All that. Sudden and dramatic changes in appearance. Getting a new haircut, new hairdo, for example, or doing something really not appropriate for the age you're in, etc. All that. These are all telltale signs of that. intense nostalgia of the past, thinking about all the great times in life in the past and feeling, I've seen that I don't have the same life anymore. Disturbance about regrets they have, not having done something, keep thinking about that, ruminating over what didn't happen. It makes no difference because it's already happened. But if you have that coming to you repeatedly as you approach everything, then maybe indication here to get some help. Thoughts about marital infidelity happens a lot more than what we think, unfortunately. Those things need to be taken care of. Career dissatisfaction, number one reason. Feeling stuck in my job, career, profession, and lack of motivation and feeling trapped. So all these things, a lot of people go through. If you're going through this temporarily or continuously, perhaps that is an indication that there has to be some investigation or some kind of help required to sort out and see if there's anything to be done about it. Most often, few small changes would take care of it. No big thing, will get better. But in some cases, you need more work and more help as well. And in some cases, you also need professional help. Most often, you can do self-help and self-care to take care of most of these things. It works for most part. But if it doesn't, then you need to take professional help for that. So what are the stages of a midlife crisis? Start off with shock, denial, depression, anger, acceptance. This is a typical cycle. The 15, 20 years of midlife, this is what happens. Initially, when things don't happen the way you think they should happen, you're shocked. You're saying, how could it not happen? How could it happen? Then you're like, it didn't really happen to me, and trying to work, rationalize things that did not happen to you. Then you get sad that it happened or not happened. Angry at others, angry at the whole society, angry at yourself. More importantly, angry at yourself. And finally come around to say, okay, this is how it is, but it is too late at the time. You missed a golden opportunity to take care of yourself and missed doing great things to feel happy. This is a typical cycle that you go through in a midlife psychology. But if you are in any stage of that, please make sure that these things are common. A lot of people go through that, and it's possible and very good to take care of it and live a very happy life. There's another little flow chart I found in some website. A kind of funny flow chart saying that how do you find your midlife crisis? All the answers lead to the bottom box, by the way. That's a trick in this slide. It's kind of saying that a lot of things that you do that are right could also mean midlife, but don't take this chart as like a gospel. This is just to show that many different things can make you feel like you are in this crisis. So what do you do about it on your own without doing anything? Recognize your feelings. It's perfectly fine that at a certain age you're going to have certain feelings. You're going to feel dissatisfied. You're going to feel a little bit down. You're going to feel a little bit jealous. All that is very normal. Recognize your feelings. Don't blame yourself for feelings you have. But if the feelings are making you not be able to do what you want to do, then there is a problem. Share your feelings to someone you trust, your spouse, your friend, your colleague, someone you trust. Share the feeling, because sharing that feeling itself is therapeutic, right? So please share your feelings. Don't keep it to yourself. Normalize and reframe your feelings for yourself based on your age group. This is where a therapist or a counselor can help do the normalization, reframing for you. Gather a team, hang out with the team, socialize with people. Reconsider aging. Aging is not some kind of march fast and do something. A lot of people are very happy when they age. They do a lot of things they never did before. So reconsider the whole concept of aging. Avoid negative coping patterns. No, I get depressed, I'm going to drink a lot. I get depressed, I'm going to sleep a lot. That's not very helpful. Avoid negative coping patterns. Re-establish your purpose. I can tell you, when you're in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, there are wonderful pivot points to do that. Let me tell you about myself. I went back to school after working for 35 years to learn psychology. I started running marathon when I turned 50 years old. I'm doing organic farming the last 2 years. I'm doing counseling now. I'm doing social work now. There are many, many, many different ways for you to re-establish your purpose. And if you meet the purpose, you are really going to feel much better about yourself. So it's not that it's something you have to do dramatically. You can do all these stages, right? Keep up with your physical health. Take care of yourself. Go for walks. Have a good diet. Eat well. Sleep well, etc. That appreciate the fact that change is inevitable. You are not going to look young all the time. First of all, young or old look is only a matter of perception. Some people think that they're very good looking and they're very old also. So it's about a matter of perception. Appreciate that the change is normal and it's the way life works. And finally, accept that it's a journey. And no one is going to go through life unscathed. Everybody is going to have some amount of satisfaction, dissatisfaction. Everybody is going to go through what they believe is success and failure. So it's not normal. So it's a journey. It's not that any one point in time you have to be at a certain point. The two key words in English that you should abandon and abolish in your mind is should and must. Drop those two words permanently from your life. This should and must is the prime reason for all mental health problems. I should be doing this. I must have this. I should be good. I must be able to do this thing. Drop all the should and must, immediately get relief. And don't let setbacks detail you. Don't let setbacks derail you. Stay focused on your goals. Be prepared for anything. Believe in yourself. More importantly, believe in yourself. Every one of us is gifted with lots of skills, talents, attributes. Believe in yourself. Stay positive. And finally, stay focused on your goals. Communicate. Be willing to pivot. If you're something that you're doing not working, try something else. Don't be afraid to change. Be open to feedback. Somebody is telling you to do something, and if you're hearing it constantly, don't reject them. Don't be in denial. Be very open to feedback. I tell you, the more you are willing to take feedback, good or bad, the more you're going to learn, and the more you are going to be happier. Let me tell you that. The more willing to take feedback, the more you're likely to see change in the positive direction. And of course, everybody has tough times. You have to deal with that and persevere through the times. So, on the topic of what kinds of therapies are available, there are various different approaches that available in psychology for that. So each one of them has a certain concept behind it. Psychodynamic psychotherapy says that your childhood upbringing and your subconscious mind determines everything. Humanistic approach says that every human being is perfectly capable of finding their own solutions to their own problems, but they need help in making that direction shown by somebody else. A cognitive behavior therapy says that people's mind, the thoughts they have result in some cognitive distortions. You end up misinterpreting something, and hence you cause problems. So CBT can help you with that. Existential therapy is another version of therapy that is very recent, which says that people can be given the right kind of inputs and stimuli to get to the point where they realize what they want. And finally, you have behavioral approaches, which says you can actually train or untrain, condition, uncondition, certain learned and unlearned behaviors to be happy. Okay, that's the end of midlife. Like I'm going to, last topic I have is adolescent mental health. This will be the last topic for the day. Another maybe 7 or 8 minutes, we'll finish this. And I'll take questions at the end of this particular session as well, if you don't mind. So in the case of adolescent life, lots of things at lots of stages in time happen. So in infancy, in school age, in adolescence, at all points, various things happen, and various things could accumulate certain kind of issues in the younger person's mind that may reflect in the condition they face later on in life, right? So for example, family, peer, or social school problems that they have during adolescence is quite detrimental. Peer pressure is one of the main reasons people end up doing things that they don't want to do, but they shouldn't be doing, right? Substance abuse, early sexual activity, risk-taking behavior. A lot of these things happen because of various influences you have around you from your family, society, your own perception, etc. All that. So it's inevitable. Nobody is going to be escaping and live in a bubble. But you have to be aware of the fact these things do have some impact on your thought patterns. And if you're aware of them, then maybe you'll have a little bit more clarity and not get swayed by that all the time. Right? That's a point of this whole slide. How many teens suffer from depression? More than 1 in 10. 10% of all people in the world between 12 and 17 years old depressed. Big number. At least one major episode of depression, right? This can last for weeks or months or years, right? So this is something that you understand, that at this age group, when they are going through this physical growth and emotional growth and mental growth, they're going to have a lot of conflicts, a lot of doubts, a lot of confusion in their life. This is a point where they need to have someone to guide them without judging them. The trouble with most parents and most people do that, they guide them with judgment. It's very difficult to be non-judgmental about your own child and guide them, but that's what you need to do. If you're not able to do that, then it's better to have somebody else do that for you instead of you trying to do that yourself. So at that age, they are going through a lot of changes. Some changes are normal. It's like the hormones are changing. Some things are very normal, not unusual. But if you try to make decisions between normal, abnormal on your own, with judgment top of that, that's going to be a problem, right? So be very careful how you do that. Take help if necessary from a professional. 31% of the world's population under age 18, right, equal to 220 million children suffer from mental illness. 50% of them who suffer illness in their young age continue to have illness in their old age also. And 90% of them who end up committing suicide have been shown to be mentally ill. So you can very clear numbers here that it's a problem that needs to be addressed, not left out. If you don't do it in the young age, it continues to be in the older age also, right? And children and adolescent mental, if you see that 50% of all mental health problems that anyone faces in life happens before they reach adolescence, 18 years old. And this results in huge amount of economic impacts. As you can see, 3.5% of GDP of Europe is affected because of adolescent mental health issues, right? So early intervention is fundamental and critical. Parents, doctors, teachers, other people that kids interact with need to become much more informed, educated, and open-minded about this. This is what we are trying to keep championing, saying that it is not just some counter somewhere is going to help you. Parents, doctors, teachers, people who take care of people in the schools, colleges, society, everyone needs to be involved in this process to identify, and early intervention is fundamental. When I say involved, I'm not asking you to become a counselor or tell people what to do. At least look for telltale signs. If you find signs, then at least try and see if you can convince that person in a gentle, nice way to take help, or at least take them to someone who can help them. I believe schools all over the world, and more so in India, need to prioritize children's well-being. Academic success is great, but it's completely useless if you're not happy. I see lots and lots of people getting through very good marks in competitive exam, ending up in top colleges, extremely unhappy and commit suicide. That's not what you want in the world. No. So schools in general need to prioritize children's well-being. Life skills should be added to the teaching curriculum alongside your maths and science and literature, etc. All that. Unfortunately, anywhere in the world, even in the Western countries also, I don't see very much of life skills anywhere in the curriculum. Forget about countries like India, which is non-existent. We are a country which invented yoga, meditation, all the good things, and we had as a generation, as a culture, had all those things on a daily basis in our life several thousands of years ago. We completely lost it now, to the point now that these life skills are never taught anywhere. So kids come out having all these kind of issues and they know how to deal with them, right? So mental illness in the youths causes educational failure, adolescent crime, teenage pregnancy. You can list a lot of issues that they have. So it's very important for all these people to do. This is not a lecture I'm giving to you to make you feel bored. I'm just telling you that when you go back to look at your own children's school, college, or a place, please ask them, please tell them, please demand these things from them. We have to do all together for this thing. What are the adolescent signs of issues? Being anxious or worried. Kids are very shifty, very tense all the time, very moody. They don't talk to you. They want to stay alone, or decrease interaction with family, drop in grades, up or down, sudden drop in grades, change in sleeping pattern, change in eating pattern. These are all very, very obvious signs that something is going on. Now, imagine all these things also happen as part of normal adolescence also. So it is difficult. I'm not saying it's easy. It is difficult to separate out from a normal change versus an abnormal change. But if you do notice something that is different, it's okay to check and take help, or take help from a professional who can tell you what all to look for specifically in your child or in the adolescent in your family, right? They can give you some amount of checks to see, are we doing this, how frequently are we doing that, etc. All that will be important to do. And at the very end, I want to see what is the typical problems with an Indian American youth psychology issue. This is a very important thing for people, parents who are listening to the conversation who have kids in the US. This is a real problem. And this slide is made not by myself imagining. This is from talking to many dozens of Indian American youths in the US currently on a one-on-one basis, confidentially asking what is going through the mind and why they think it is. And this is coming out of that analysis. Number one, the perfect brown kid syndrome. This is the stereotyping that a perfect Asian kid in US has to be good in studies, has to be good in math, has to be good in computers, has to be good in ethics. All this unnecessary pressure. Second one, child feeling treated like a show pony. I've seen this happen many, many times. Parents want to show off how great they brought the child by making the kid perform. And these kids are not willing to perform. You make them perform, making like a show pony. It is not a surrogate for your happiness. The kid is a kid. Their happiness matters. So I see in many, many places where people are very anxious to show how great their kids are by making them, forcing them to perform, whether it's singing, acting, dancing, getting grades, whatever it is, right? Third one is helicopter parenting, telling everything for the client, for the child, and deciding on their behalf. Fourth, if the child has mental health issues, don't get your own stigma about that. Stop you from treating them or getting help for them. So get rid of all the stigma about mental health issues, because if the child is saying he's not happy, he has a problem, please respect them that they're telling something and take care of it. Don't just ignore it or brush it saying that doesn't matter, doesn't happen to us. Balancing two different cultures. I see a lot of this happening in the US. At home, kids are expected to be Indian. Outside, they're expected to be whatever they are in, right? This is very difficult for a adolescent to deal with two different cultures in the same day and try to fit in, right? It is reality. They have to do that. To the extent we can make it less different, it's better. Enforcing all your Indian conditions at home and them doing something else outside is going to make them two different people, actually, right? So confusing identity, focusing on academic performance versus overall well-being. Now, marks are important, grades are important, all that is important, good school is important, but mental health and overbuilding is much more important. That's a long time thing for them. So don't get me wrong, people have to start, study well, get to good schools, but getting into Ivy League school is not the end of life, right? There are very, very many people who have done very, very big things without having to go to Ivy League schools or without having to go to private schools or getting A+ everywhere, right? So please make sure that you focus on the overall well-being more than the academic performance. And finally, verbal and emotional abuse. I see this happen everywhere in the world, not just US. Parents telling kids, embarrassing them, telling them, judging them in front of other people, both verbally as well as emotionally, saying that you're stupid, you don't know, you're worthless, you can't do anything. Look at other kid, what he's doing great. None of this helps. All the Indian American kids I spoke to in the last couple of months about the issue, all of them agreed to all these words, all these points here. So this is a warning, a wake-up call for all of us, our parents or people who are looking at kids, that let's make sure that we are at least aware of the fact this is what the kids are thinking in the mind, what causes them problem. To the extent we can modify our behavior, our approach, our attitude about this, the better it is for them also. Okay, so I'm going to close with a few little sayings from people. So Abby Scarborough is the co-founder of Vienna, a successful company, e-commerce company. Mental health is not a PR campaign. It's a paradigm shift. We need to take care of that. This is from Richard Branson from UK. I seriously doubt that I would have been as successful in my career and happy in personal life if I had not always placed importance on my health and fitness. By that he means mental health and physical fitness. Marissa Meyer from Yahoo says, my hobbies actually make me better at work. They help me come up with new and innovative ways of looking at things. So just working hard isn't going to solve all the problems for you. This is from Morten Karup Christensen. I try to meditate. Now, this is a guy from Europe. I try to meditate 20 minutes every day. Does it 2 hours during the weekend and go on 1 week long media meditation retreat once a year. And he says it has dramatically changed his performance. So finally, there is hope, people. There is definitely hope. I have my contact information here. Again, as I said, the presentation will be made available to you. You can take that. You can take the contacts. As I said, you have to, if you think you need help, please reach out to someone, anyone who is qualified and experienced. If you want to reach out to me, by all means, you're welcome to. I will do my very best to see what I can do. If I cannot help you, I will definitely refer it to somebody else. But please do take care of yourself and take care of your loved ones and take help as necessary and have a good life. Thank you very much. So open to questions, comments, feedback, anything, criticisms, all of them are welcome. Pujita, any questions?
Vish, this is Raghu. I have a question.
Yes.
Do any of the organizations, right, like they ask people to, for certain professions, they ask people to, give them a medical test report. Do they, any organization, do they nowadays started asking for a mental health report or something?
Not exactly. Some companies in the world do what is called psychometric test. Psychometric test is not exactly mental health evaluation, but it is definitely a little bit more than just physical health evaluation. I don't know any company that I had worked with or known who actually asked for that report. They should, but I don't think anyone does right now. I don't think anyone does right now. Yeah. But however, what is happening? What is happening is a lot of companies have become clients of mine because they want me to help evaluate their employees. So they found out after the fact that after hiring the person that they want to make sure the people are actually productive and happy, etc. So I do have some companies, particularly small companies, who reach out to me asking me to help evaluate their employees. And in some cases, they even ask the employees to directly reach out to me, which a company pays for counseling.
Got it. Another related question is, especially in the matrimony side, right? Because I heard, so some of my friends said, their niece who got married to a guy, who is an architect, etc., perfectly looking guy, etc. but he started behaving very possessive, and later they found to him have some mental health issues.
Yeah.
So likewise, I do not know the matrimony side, whether in US or in India, people have gone to the extent of asking for those information. Yeah, thank you.
Not really. I haven't seen matrimony sites recently, but I can tell you that what is happening in the society today, all countries and particularly India, is that people who are getting married now aren't getting married because somebody told them to get married, right? They are wanting to talk to each other, etc. All that. What is surprising to me is that back in the good old days when people did not have a chance to talk to the person they got married and get married, happened to be continuously living married, and people who are a choice of doing the hanging out, waiting, talking, building relationship still have a problem. So it's not about how long or how much you spend time with them. It's a matter of being very clear on your objective. My belief, this is only my belief, don't get me wrong, is that after seeing so many clients under 35, the number one challenge I see for people under 35 is relationships. Not knowing who to marry, not sure who's the right person to marry, not know when to marry, should I even marry? Am I ready to get married? I married, I don't feel good about it. Should I leave the marriage? And some shocking cases, I don't feel good about my spouse. I'm going to go hang out with somebody else. I mean, you'll hear all kinds of shocking stories. And predominantly, I'm not saying only, predominantly people in the 35 and under age. As I told you, majority of my clients are under 35. And it's another interesting statistic is that about 80% of my clients are actually women as well. Which is interesting. That was not my expectation. When I did my course and I training, etc., all that, I thought, who's going to come to me? Maybe a older male adult will come to me. But I can tell you that majority of the customers are women and the majority under 35 years old. So it's interesting. I have a revelation for myself. My expectation did not match the reality. But it's okay. People need help. People need help. So doesn't matter whether it's person younger or older, a man or woman. We look at their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors and try to do our best to help them get through whatever issues that they have.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions?
Sir, I had a question. So, in all the people that kind of face these challenges, have you noticed a common pattern of a certain cause that's the majority for these kind of patterns for most of the people?
No, I can't really say there's one leading cause. As I said in one of the slides, there could be a lot of different reasons for that. Your experiences in life, your upbringing, your current environment, your genetics, etc., all that. But what I can answer the question this way is that I find that the experiences you had in your earlier age seem to have a much bigger, disproportionately bigger impact on your condition now than what happened later on in life. Particularly the age between 3 and 10. At least in my experience, I see that period is critical. Very critical evolution, mental health evolution of a person, that during that period of things were not going on right for the child, or a child goes through any difficult traumatic condition. I do get some abuse cases, people who are abused in their physically abused, verbally abused, sexually abused cases. They go through a very difficult time right through their life. And we try our best to help them, but those cases take a very long time to recover, resolve. They do get better, but those are all difficult cases. So I would say that upbringing, experiences in younger age of life would be one leading indicator of that. The more recent one I see is that people doing it to themselves, not sleeping well, trying to keep up with the Jonases and trying to do many things. Multitasking has become a big thing now. People don't understand multitasking is not necessarily always good. Multitasking is good to a certain extent. So, but doing it is a problem. Not enough sleep is a problem. So I would say that there's no one particular cause. Having too many choices has also become a problem, right? Too many career choices, too many education choices, too many partner choices has also become a problem. So people get confused, too many choices. And those cases I help them by going through to see what their priorities are. And I ask them questions, asking what the priorities, and ask them to justify the priority. And by asking the question, they find the answers themselves. That's the trick of counseling. I'm not telling them answer, they're finding the answers themselves. But the way is to frame the question and ask them so they can find it themselves. That's the way I can answer the question. Did I answer the question? Kind of.
Yep, you did. You did.
Okay.
Thank
Other
you.
questions?
So,
Outstanding.
Vish,
Very well done and informative presentation, Vish. the one thought I have is about like a master health checkup. Is there a mental health checkup, sort of a survey assessment?
Yes, there are self assessments available in the internet. I'll be careful how you use them, because this field of self assessment for mental health is not very mature. There are tools available, there are apps available, there are standard assessments available. The challenge is that, unlike similar to a physical checkup, or even more than a physical checkup, is that these things measure and give you a report. It's not what is there in the report that is important as much as how you read the report, right? They'll say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, you are at 7. Now, if you don't know what 10 and 1 mean, then 7 is irrelevant at this point in time, right? So I would say that there are some basic things you can find out about yourself, which is helpful. But if you're going to do assessment, then you can probably go to someone who's capable of doing assessments for you. They do some regular standard tests. So, for example, skills, aptitudes. People come and say, which field should I be working on? Should I be doing this or that field? I say, well, I can't decide what field you're going to be. If I tell you, there are standard assessments telling you what are the skills and aptitudes, right? Understand, skill and aptitude is not the same as desire and good things to do in life. Very different things, right? When you go to a career counselor, this is what bugs me a lot. Career counselors and career counselors are very disservice. They give you career guidance, not career counseling. They tell you, do something in AI, get a better job. That's not career counseling, it's career guidance. Counseling is telling you what you are good at, skill-wise, aptitude-wise. The fact that AI was to make more money doesn't mean you should be doing AI. If your mind is doing something different, your skill and attitude is different, then going to a career consultant who says go and do AI will be actually very, very detrimental, right? So yes, to answer your question, yes, we have tools to do that. Some of them are very basic that can be used yourself, but I would be very careful not to go with that as a conclusive assessment and take help from some other thing. Now, having said that, a lot of startups have approached me now who want to build these apps, self-help apps, and they want help from qualified counselors and therapists like us to see what should be the way to measure self-help things. There are developments there. I think we'll get to the point where we'll have more assessment, reliable, credible assessment tools than what we have right now. But I would say right now it is not very mature.
Wow. So there are some tools, but I guess in the hands of a counselor, the tools will become quite effective even at this point, right?
100%. And all counselors, to some extent use some of this tool. Not all of them use all the tools. It all depends upon the counselor. Some people don't believe in the tools. Now, I believe that there are certain things that can be measured without us having to spin our wheels. But not all counselors agree on that. Not all psychologists agree on that. But to a large extent, the current age, the demand for counseling, demand for mental health is so much that the professional cannot afford to spend as much time as they were spending in the past in trying to detect and find things, when some things can be given to them somewhat reasonably accurate, and they can build from there and do more important things, right? That's how I see it right now. Okay, I do use tools in my assessment, let's put it that way. Not 100%, but I do use a lot of tools in my assessment.
Great. Thank you.
Sure, thanks. Next question.
So Vish, you mentioned about like parenting styles, right? So using kids as show ponies. I don't think it is just with kids growing up in say US, right? So it also happens in India.
Absolutely.
It probably came from India over here, right? And some Asian cultures as well. It's a cultural
also
thing.
True. Also true.
But I guess there were more ways to cope up in India versus, like you mentioned about second-gen Indians, kids who are born and raised in the US or any other country for that matter have to go through two identities, one with their kind of circle outside of home, and then one within the circle that the parents are bringing up. I mean, having married to somebody who was a second-gen Indian, right? So I can tell you the differences. I grew up in India because I went to CEG, and then somebody who had never been in India for that long. I can see that difference, the cultural differences, but it doesn't, not always, like not everybody always have to go through that and become negative about it, right? I mean, you have to embrace that. You can't escape that. You are born into a family, then you are born and you can't change that, correct?
Exactly.
So how do you cope up with that? and what kind of parenting we do will help them, right? So it'll always be there, right? Indians, as much as they move to so many different countries around the world, the parents want them to be tied to the roots somehow, right? Either teach them the language, they have to know the language, or they have to know some form of art, either the dance or the music. Not really going to help them so much when they become an adolescent, but then it helps them with some kind of identity. But again, I don't think there's a good or a bad thing about it.
Absolutely. I think I want to be very clear that it's not a judgment against any one particular cohort or ethnicity or anything. I think in general, as you said correctly, I think Asian immigrants to the US tend to be more focused on certain things or put a disproportionately more importance on certain things versus general population. Keeping your cultural identity is perfectly fine. I think if people are born in a certain culture, it's perfectly fine for them to be enjoying the culture. What happens is parents, I've seen parents, and I've seen it in many places, that parents tell the children to do one kind of thing at home, and the same parent tells the same kid to do something very opposite outside. That's very confusing. That's very, very confusing to the kid, right? And as you said, this is not only an Indian parent in the US problem, it's an Indian parent, Indian problem also. But when it comes to India, these kids are Indians and everybody around them are also from India. So it doesn't kind of stand out. Whereas we see it there in the US, you go to a classroom, we have 30 kids, and you have like maybe like 5, 6 Asian kids and 20, 30 American or European kids. When these kids feel that they are being told or managed or micromanaged or say helicopter parented, they feel the pressure. And not all other parents are doing the same thing. And they say, why is that my parent is doing this to me and putting so much emphasis on grades and this and that? And my friend next to me, John's parent, doesn't do that. Kids start imagining, why is it like this? Which is what I was talking about. So it's by no means a judgment on Indian parenting. I think the fact that Indians have been successful both in the US and India says that there has been something or many things we done right about parenting, no doubt about it. But there are some things that we think we are doing right, which we may not reconsider, right? This show pony thing, I'll tell you honestly, I have seen this happen so many times. I actually get angry sometimes, particularly with young kids. I see in Indian parties, my kid needs to demonstrate his great keyboard skills. The kid has no interest in playing at that moment, right? And to the parent, it's a matter of pride and think that my kid is doing this. So you are actually living where, kind of what they call through your child. And that's not fair for you or the child. So that's what I was talking about. That, and if you see people doing that, then nowadays I don't keep quiet. I used to keep quiet. I would say, like, please, I'm a counselor. I'm going to tell you something. You're not ready here. This kid is not a show job. It's a child. Yeah. I tell them. In fact, people get upset with me. I tell them because I don't want to ignore this when I know the importance of that, and tell them, please, in a very polite way, if a kid doesn't want to play, it's okay. It's okay. It doesn't show badly on you. Kid doesn't want to play, kid doesn't want to play. Parents read it as, my kid is not listening to me or not going to play and embarrassing me. That's what the kid is doing, right? This is where I say a situation results in different interpretations in the mind. And in the parent's mind that, no, my kid is disobeying me in front of others, which is bad. Not showing his skills, bad. And all that thing, they think that the kid needs to be told publicly, and that's not very good. That's what I was talking about. I mean, it's not like I'm on a little soapbox criticizing an Indian parent. I was also an Indian parent in the US. I've done all the mistakes.
Yeah. But I think it is changing. I mean, they're definitely changing. I don't see that more often these days, right? So.
Yeah, it's also a little disconnect now with all this COVID pandemic, etc. All that, the interactions have become less. So I don't see very many Indian parties. Like last year, I was in the US. I saw far less physical parties in the US compared to what was previous to the pandemic, right? So there's been less. So people are more dispersed. So maybe this problem is not being visible. Maybe it still exists, less or more, it's not visible anymore.
Yeah, right? And in most Indian parties, you don't see the teenage kids even show up, right? They don't even want to go there. Yeah.
For a good reason, for a very good reason.
Yeah.
For a very good reason, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but so you also mentioned about like how, like maybe 20, 30 years ago, the previous generation, there was not many breakups in relationships and all that, right? So I think it is also to an extent that there was a social stigma associated with it. Absolutely. Now it is like people don't think very bad about somebody or if it doesn't work out, it's okay, right? You can separate, and then you can have your own life. The
Exactly.
parents accepting that, and then the society accepting that is also a reason for that, right? If there was a choice given to the men and women of the previous generation, I don't know what kind of statistics we would see now, you know?
Agree. It's interesting you mentioned, because marital counseling, or usually, at least in Indian context, is about use the counselor to make sure that they both don't separate, no matter how they feel about it, right? Counseling has become more of telling them than actually giving them a choice to make. Whereas I feel counseling should be understanding, and if there is a way for them to reframe there and be able to get beyond the differences, let's try it. But let's not try to get to a solution for sake of getting the solution, saying please get together. Because in some cases, as a counselor, I tell them, you know what? After talking to you and seeing all the conditions, you're better off not being in this relationship. I'm free to tell them. I tell them, I actually advise them, saying, if I to give me a perspective, I said, you know what, this may be not the right thing for you. You have to consider it, but you don't need to feel compelled to stay in the relationship. Right? It's not helpful both the parties, and just for the sake of being together doesn't going to make a difference to anyone. You should consider moving out. So I do give those kind of what I call suggestions to them. But as I said, as a counselor, I'm not supposed to solve or give a specific answer. So we try to shy away from giving specific answers. But I do support, if people feel strongly about being separated for sake of their mental thing, I will support them unconditionally, regard them that it's their choice and they should make the choice. I'm not going to try the traditional marital counseling, trying to bring them together in any way. That's not the way we approach it anymore.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I know somebody who's a divorce attorney in the US, and then he's an Indian, like, who grew up here when he came here when he was a child, but he does the same thing. I mean, he's not supposed to. I mean, that's not his profession, but he acts in the kind of mold of a psychiatrist, right? Rather than separating them, it's just an easier thing to do. He tries, but then eventually most people come to that attorney by the time it's too late.
Exactly. I would also say one thing, there's a big difference between counseling and advice guidance. All of us go to someone for advice, our parents, our boss, our seniors, etc. The big difference. Advice and guidance is, first of all, not custom made for you. People give advice based on their own life experiences, not yours. Right? Is it good or bad? The value in advice, but advice is not equal to counseling. Guidance is also people expectation of what you should do, not what you want to do. Right? So I see people saying that, no, are you going to guide me? I said, no, I'm going to counsel you. Guidance means I had to give you a very vanilla answer to a question, which may or may not be appropriate for you. So what WhatsApp, Facebook, and all Google does to you is what I call pop psychology, giving advice and guidance, which is unsolicited often and also not custom made for this person, right? The solution they give you may not be at all appropriate for you, even though it applies to 10 other people. So this is where I tell people, now, if you have a challenge, of course, talking to someone you know very well, trusting is not at all a bad idea. They will give you a thing, but don't expect a person who is not qualified or experienced to be able to treat you or take care of you if you have a mental health challenge. They can't do that. And more importantly, WhatsApp University, I like WhatsApp like anything else, but WhatsApp does a very great disservice, because people post all kinds of advice to you in that unsolicited and completely misinformed. I see people coming to me in a condition far worse than what they should be, because they chose to trust WhatsApp pop psychology advice and got worse, and then come to us. So again, I'm not trying to unsell WhatsApp or unsell something else, but if you do get advice in that unsolicited, don't just think it's God-given truth. And second thing I see nowadays, that people often quote famous psychologists wrongly. Sigmund Freud didn't say many of things that come in WhatsApp today. I can tell you that. He never said that. People make up, right? And people didn't say, oh, Freud said it should be right, I should do the same thing. No, don't. Freud didn't say that, actually, right? So a lot of misinformation floats around. So I would be very careful in taking any of this generic, unsolicited information dished out on a regular basis as a way to make yourself do what you want to do. Okay. Other questions? Good questions, by the way. Very, very relevant. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a really interesting slide where it talked about the stress and performance as a graph. I mean, like to visualize. One thing also you mentioned that the problem is not mindset, but also if you really followed the rest of this presentation, it was all about the different mindsets people have creating this problem to others. So yeah, I do agree that the problem is not a mindset change, but it is the mindset of others around you who has set an expectation or something that this is right or wrong. So I see like it's changed to the cost. So do you see like this is to be much more advertised or like made sure like you create a good environment for others? Like
Absolutely. I think when I
a
say
simple
mindset,
example is like my own experience working in India, I would never talk about a personal thing at work, but it moved to US, and here like it's okay to take off early for your some personal work, which was like a very contrasting thing for me. So that's the environment that created, right? Like, so how do you see this? Even with parenting, that's the same thing.
Agreed. First of all, when I say mindset, it's the person who I'm talking about the mindset. You can't do anything about somebody else's mindset, right? You can't control that. So when I say mindset, people often dismiss the mental saying, oh, you have a negative mindset, positive mindset, fixed mindset. I mean, these are all nonsensical words in my opinion. There's no such thing as a positive mindset, negative mindset, right? How do you define that? Thinking that everything is going to work out. Yeah, great hope, but hope is not a strategy, right? People say, think positive or don't think. You better advice. Stop thinking. That's impossible. It's like stop breathing, right? So what I'm saying about is that when people say your mindset is fixed, your mindset is positive, etc., that's not a detection or a solution to the problem you're facing. What I do say is that your thought patterns, how you perceive things, how you interpret things, that's not mindset. That's how your mind works, right? So by making sure that the information that is coming to your mind is framed properly. So let me give you a little technical word in philosophy. It's something called life script. All of us in our lives from birth to now have been looking at all the happenings around us and created basically a script, like a movie script. We've written a script about ourselves, who we are, what we are, how we should be, how others should be, what is good, what is bad, what I like, what I don't like. We have basically written a little script about ourselves that is invisible to us and largely even not aware of it actually. And every single time you process information is based on the life script you written. As a counselor, as a mental health professional, it is my job to find out your life script first of all and find out inconsistencies or plain inaccuracies in your life script to be able to point out and gently challenge them for you to realize some of those things that you have decided in your mind need to be changed slowly, right? So mindset means something is set, cast in stone, you're going to be this way. We're not talking about that at all. We're talking about how you process information, what kind of life script you might have, what kind of experience you have, and try to rewrite them or reframe them in a way that is more helpful and productive. Not saying good or bad, right? Right or wrong. Helpful and productive. Ultimately, our aim is to make you more productive, more happy, more enjoyable, not being good or bad or right or wrong, right? That is why I said mindset is not a thing. Now, people around you, you're right. People around you have a lot of influence on how you perceive, behave, etc. All that. But that is where you have to learn at some point that what happens around you is not causing the problem. What you read about what happens around you is the problem. So the control is in you. If you are able to reframe what happens around you in a way that is not detrimental, then you're going to end up being happy. You try to change the mindset of others, that's going to happen because they don't need to change, they don't have to change, and secondly, they don't even know they have to change, right? So I hear people coming to relate counting saying that my in-law is not respecting me. I'm like, how did you conclude that? Because they yelled at me. Well, first of all, they probably spoke loud, they didn't yell at you, number one. And second thing, how do you know that it's disrespect? They probably wanted to say something and emphasize something that didn't automatically equal disrespect. You read this as disrespect in your mind. Because you perceive someone telling something to you a little louder as disrespect. Second, this is how you read it, right? So we're trying to make sure that the mindsets of others is not changeable. Your own mindset is also not the problem here. There's no such thing as a fixed mindset, but how you process and perceive information, how to make better use of the processing in your mind to end up with a more objective, realistic thought and behavior than something that is going to cause trouble for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, a lot to process for me, but yeah, it's very interesting that the life script is very interesting to me, and also like to have certain sort of what you are saying is like anyone can throw at you, you should be able to process, in a way that you shield yourself from not getting into it. But sometimes it feels like it's easier. I think it's why you need help probably. So
Exactly. While you're doing Googling live script, while you're interested in it, I'll throw you another word: core beliefs. Google that as well. Two fundamental core beliefs that people beliefs we hold in our mind about ourselves, others, things, world, etc., which looks very real. And what is worse with core belief is that after you start forming certain core beliefs, you seek out information to further validate that belief and ignore information that doesn't subscribe to the belief, which is dangerous. So as a counselor, I try to find out what core belief you're holding in your mind and try to show you evidence contrary to what you're holding gently, to make sure that your core beliefs are not necessarily cast in stone. And that, I tell you, makes a dramatic difference in the person's mental health. Dramatic difference. So finding out their core beliefs and working on them and telling them how to reframe them and showing them. Because what happens when you look at information after you have a very firm core belief is that you start looking at information that validates it further. Anything that doesn't validate, you say that it didn't happen, or it's not right, or it doesn't happen all the time. You justify to yourself, rationalize to yourself. So it is important for someone to look at your thought pattern, because it's very difficult for you yourself to identify your own core belief, because they things look real to you. You obviously think it's right. I can tell you some of them are not very right. In fact, most of the core beliefs are not very helpful, actually.
no, definitely.
Other questions? Good questions, by the way, very good questions. I'm happy to hear good questions. Okay, if you guys want to have any questions you want to ask later, you didn't want to ask now, by all means, you can write to me and I'm happy to answer the questions. Or you can send a note to Sigana through the mechanism they have. They can ask the questions to me. The presentation, I'll have to convert that and send it to you. We did a conversion to PDF that didn't work for some reason, so I had to look at why it's not working. But rest assured, you will get a copy of the presentation for your own use. Please send the presentation to whoever you feel. There is no IP rights or confidentiality. Please send it to anyone you feel. In fact, I encourage you to ask people to watch the presentation and read the presentation, because I want everyone to get this message that it's something important and to worry about, take care of, do something about. So please be my ambassador and send it to other people as well. Back to you, Pujita. Pujita, back to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Vish sir, and thank you everyone for attending. This has been very helpful, especially in today's world. Yeah, thank you. And I hope to host many more events like this.
Thank you, Pujita, for hosting it. Thank you, guys. Have a good day, good evening.
Thanks, Vish. Bye.